gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Just Acting Up Show has a special guest. This is going to be a special interview, and I know y'all going to enjoy it. Very informative. But first, before we get in that, we got to clap it in and applaud this queen for joining us. Danyell Davis. Thank you. Good morning to you.
Good morning to all. Glad to be here.
Yes, indeed. So, first and foremost, thank you again for joining us. I know it was early in the morning, bright and early like the orange juice. And we're just so appreciative of you joining us and coming by and sharing your expertise and just giving information. So I'm going to give you the floor. Introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Absolutely. So once again, thank you all for having me on the Just Acting Up podcast. That's your new favorite podcast. You might not know it yet, but it is. I'm glad to be here. My name is Danyell Davis, and I am a licensed financial professional and a financial literacy coach. And as such, I am part of the National Financial Literacy Campaign, where our goal is to educate 30 million North Americans between now and the year 2030. So without further ado, it brings me great honor and pleasure to be able to educate you today financially and tell you a little bit more about myself and tell you a little bit more about the campaign.
Cool. Financial literacy is such important, and being that it is Financial Literacy Month, right? Am I right?
You got it right. Absolutely. April is National Financial Literacy Awareness Month. So how fitting that you all would have me on the podcast this month. Absolutely.
Right, and it's something that goes across no matter what industry you're in, no matter what area you work in. Everybody needs help with finances, and so we definitely wanted to have you on to kind of help people get their money right. We'll get back to that later. So tell us, just kind of tell us what is the National Financial Literacy Campaign that's going on right now?
Absolutely. So let's first touch on what financial literacy is, right? People hear this term and sometimes they're like, what does that mean? So really when we're talking about financial literacy is making sure that you understand the basic concepts of how money works. That's what we're talking about when we say financial literacy, having a basic understanding of how money works so that you can then be empowered to make sound financial decisions for yourself and for your family. Okay. And so that's really what the Financial Literacy Campaign is based upon. We want to make sure that everyone that wants to be is educated financially. And so that's really at the root of the Financial Literacy Campaign. Our goal is to educate individuals, families, business owners, and anyone that wants to be financially educated. We want to eliminate barriers historically in financial services. If I can be honest and real with you all, African Americans, people of color, and women have been discriminated against. So I'm proud to be here today as a woman of color, in standing in the gap and really trying to eliminate the barriers for minorities and women. I care about the financial literacy of all people. But as I mentioned earlier, since, there's been a disproportionate amount of African Americans and people of color that have been privy to this information, there's all the more need to make sure that we're reaching out to all people. And I'm very inclusive, and this National Financial Literacy Campaign is really geared towards people from all different backgrounds. It doesn't matter your religion, it doesn't matter your socioeconomic status, it doesn't matter your race, or even what your gender preference is. Our goal is to make sure that people are getting educated financially. And definitely there's a big push for this, really 365 days a year. But there's even more of a push for this during April, which is Financial Literacy Awareness Month. And, basically wanted to give you a little bit of an understanding of what the climate is right now in America and why there is such a pressing need for this financial literacy campaign. I want to quote just a few statistics from what we consider to be our manual. It's called the Saving Your Future book. And, these will be some real quick and dirty statistics, but just to give you an idea of what the climate is like right now in America, 33% or more than 77 million Americans do not pay their bills on time. Maybe you know someone like that. 39% carry credit card debt from month to month, and only 59% say they have any savings at all. Now, what's worse is half think it's acceptable to default on their mortgage if they can't afford to pay it. They simply walk away from it, and they don't recognize what the long-term effects is going to be on their credit. So it's those kinds of situations that cut across, all races and religions in America right now. And that's kind of where we're at in terms of, the financial climate. And that's why there is such a great need for our financial literacy campaign.
That's beautiful that you all are doing that and sharing that, because you know how it was when we were all kids. We all, if we were fortunate for parents to say, hey, look, you need to learn how to save this money and save that. Because my people, I love my family, love my mom and my dad, but they're like, yeah, go to school or go do this. No, just do this, go get in school and get a good job and you'll be all right. Like, no, right. I need you to step by step, because this right here is not all, don't know everything. So I love that y'all doing that.
Absolutely. And to your point, I think as most parents, I think our parents are well-intentioned, but they can't give you what they didn't have. Right. And see, another reason, you can't teach what you don't know. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think, even coming from my background, my parents had genuine, concern for me. They wanted me to do well. They wanted me to be well, but they weren't taught financially. And if I can take it back even further, a generation beyond them, they weren't taught financially. So now we have 2 or 3 or 4 or more generations of people that were not taught really the basic financial concepts that you need to leave a legacy. And kind of, as we've talked about offline, I am a Christian, but I'm not a Bible beater. But the Bible does say that a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. We're not even doing it for ourselves. Yeah. And the reason we're not doing it is, number one, we're not educated, right? But again, as I mentioned earlier, if you weren't educated financially, if your parents weren't educated financially, if their parents weren't educated financially, how are we going to create that legacy that the Bible tells us that we can? And so my answer to that question is, we've got to start with the education. We've got to start with understanding these concepts, and then we'll be empowered to leave that multi-generational legacy of wealth.
What is the disconnect with our community when it comes down to being financially free? Because to me, personally, we figure out things as we go. And like you say, when this one person is going through it, we ask them. It's like we walk around the answers, that when the answers could be just right there in our face. It's some of a disconnect, because I know I was dealing with a lot with my mom growing up with financials, and I inherited her traits by accident, you know.
Right.
And I was like, wait a minute, that's some things that she used to do. Let me not do that.
Got it. Absolutely. So I think you're onto something. I think there's a lot of different factors that are causing this disconnect. One, as we just mentioned, our parents and their parents maybe not having that information. But I like to keep it real. I also do think that it's systemic racism. If you deprive a people of this information, you can hold a people down. Right? Because I got to give you a little bit of my background. So prior to me being a licensed financial professional and a financial literacy coach, I'm also certified as a school principal, teacher, and assistant speech therapist. So one thing I do know well is the ins and outs of our educational system. And while there's a lot that we do well for students, one area that we've been failing them consistently in is in the area of financial literacy. Okay. We're teaching our students how to do trigonometry, geometry, calculus, but we're not giving them the basic fundamental skills that they need, which is financial literacy, to be successful no matter what their career path is. So that's one way that I feel that there's this disconnect, because people are not getting educated at home about finance, and then they're not getting educated through our educational system about finance, which means the system is failing them, right? And so again, that can actually become systemic racism, institutionalized racism, because the very institution that is supposed to be educating our students is withholding this information from them. And so, like I said, I want to level the playing field. I definitely want to do away with the wealth gap. And part of that is making sure that this education is available to all people, no matter what side of the tracks you were born on.
I agree. I know me and my friend was talking the other day about just like, if we knew now back then when we were younger, it's just stuff wasn't afforded to us because of where we live. You know, like you said, it needs to be more of that in the schools. 'Cause usually, how much trigonometry do we use in our day to day? You know,
Right.
Yeah,
Let me
right.
get 2 tanks of gas with XY times squared plus 10. You know, like
Exactly. And again, I mean, maybe if you're going to become an engineer or something like that, that'll be perfect for you, right? But if that's not going to be your pathway in life, then hey, everybody needs to have financial literacy. Everybody needs to understand financial concepts. And so that is why I really believe that we've got to make sure that financial literacy needs to become a mandatory part of our curriculum. And I can tell you right now, in most states in the US, it is not a mandatory part of the curriculum. It's not a mandatory part of the curriculum in Texas. And so, not to be political, I don't tell you which way to vote or who to vote for. That's your choice.
Right.
Do what you feel led to do, but also think about it. If we want to affect change at the level of our schools, we've got to make sure that we have people in office who care about financial literacy for all and who want to make sure that this education becomes a mandatory part of our curriculum.
It is very important for us to start doing it within ourselves, because when you get someone in office, they don't hold sometimes, not all the time, but they don't hold the promises that they once said before they got into office.
Okay.
Now that they're in office, it's very slow feet on the process. So I think it's important for us as a family, as a community, that we have to educate ourselves. And I think it's getting better now, because it's like you're getting aware, because there's a lot of things that I'm learning, like, what? You could do that? What? You could do this? You could do that? And then I'm passing it on to, like, I had a conversation with my mom the other day about her equity, and she was, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. I didn't know that, And so same thing with my wife. I'm educating her about the importance of credit.
I think as a people and as a community, not only have we been deprived of this information, and it's been intentional, but we've also, we've become to the point where we don't want to take the Band-Aid off. Yeah. And to me, sometimes, and so we've been taught, well, I'm struggling, but I'm going to struggle in silence. I'm going to struggle on my own. And that's a way to approach the situation, but it may not be the most efficient way to approach the situation. I just read you some statistics, and so we know that people are hurting financially. And so I think as a people, we're going to have to be willing to be more transparent, and we're going to have to be willing to be real about our situation. If we're hurting financially, let's be willing to get educated, and let's be willing to take advantage of the resources that are made available to us. And I have sensed a lot of hesitancy in our community, and a lot of mistrust, because, right. and understandably, because of the way things have panned out. But we now have to, I think, a fool trust everyone, and I think a fool trust no one. You're going to have to trust somebody. I'm not telling you to trust everybody, but there is somebody out there that is genuine, that has your best interests at heart. And I encourage you to connect with people like that, who are, financially educated, and who are licensed, and who have a good track record, and who do have your best interest in mind. And then let's be transparent. If we're hurting financially, let's be real about that, because really the key to healing is revealing where you're at. We can't do better or get any better if we're not willing to be transparent about our current situation.
Right. And I know I see a lot of people that they put themselves in situations because they'll spend beyond their means, trying to keep up with the Joneses. I think social media, that puts a weight on some people. They'll try to, keep up with what's trending. So if you're in a financial hole, and let's say you're just, you don't know what to do, how to come out of it, what are some steps that you can tell us that just going towards financial freedom?
Absolutely. So once again, we want to encourage to, number one, acknowledge your situation, where you're at, acknowledge the challenges that you're up against. But beyond that, we want you to seek help, and seek help from the right people. Okay. Because again, you can do this thing on your own, but that might not be the most efficient way to go about doing this, right? There are people that are licensed, that are educated to be able to coach you along the way, such as myself, to help you get to where you need to be. And so if you are struggling financially, number one, seek the education. But here are a few concepts that I do want to share with you just to kind of get you started. Because part of what we're teaching through our financial literacy workshops, because we do offer financial literacy workshops, and we also do offer one-on-one consultations to really be able to dig deep into what your situation is. Everything that you share with me is confidential. Again, it's all about, you know, figuring out how I can better assist you, how I can be of service to you, right? So that's where being transparent comes in. But just thinking about how you can build a strong financial foundation, there's really a few steps that we have to think about. I want to describe this thing kind of to you in layers, okay? The first thing is make sure that you have proper protection in place. Most people are like, what in the world are you talking about, Danyell, when you say proper protection, okay? So we're getting people back to the basics, right? We want to help you build a solid financial foundation. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that there aren't any gaps or holes in your financial situation. So the first layer, if we're going to look at it, is making sure you have proper protection. That's making sure that you have all the necessary insurances in place. That's your life insurance, your health insurance, your auto insurance. If you're a homeowner, homeowner's insurance. If you're renting, renter's insurance. But then also an area that's highly neglected is, do you have any type of protection in place if you become critically or chronically or terminally ill? Most people don't want to talk about that. We've got to talk about it because people are living longer. We're taking better care of ourselves. We've got medical technology and advances that are allowing for us to live longer. And so as people are living longer, guess what? There's an increased incidence and an increased likelihood that you could have some type of critical, chronic or terminal or long-term care illness. So making sure that you have something in place for that, okay? I'm in the business of not only educating people, but also helping them to know, you know, what is the right amount and the right type when it comes to those insurances. Okay, so that's the foundational level. The next thing is make sure, we know most people have some type of debt, but make sure we have some type of debt management plan in place. Okay, because you want to make sure that you are increasing your credit score. You want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for the future. So let's talk about that. The next thing is making sure that you have an emergency fund. Okay, what is an emergency fund? Making sure that you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses that are set aside. Okay, that could be in your savings account, that could be in your checking account. This is over and above the money that you use to pay your bills, right? So you would need to, and you could get with me, I'll provide my information. We want to calculate exactly what your monthly expenses are. And then we want to systematically work out a plan on how you're going to work to get that 3 to 6 months of living expenses that are set aside only for an emergency. I always tell, you know, some of my female clients needing to go get that pair of red bottoms from Neiman Marcus. That's not an emergency, okay? Your account's going to be bleeding, you know, but so we're talking about real emergencies, like somehow you lost your job, you couldn't pay your rent, you know, you needed to repair your vehicle. That's what I'm talking about when I say an emergency fund. Now you're like, Danyell, I can't get to the 3 or 6 months, maybe not today, but can you save your first 500, your first 1,000? And then we work up to getting 3 to 6 months of living expenses set aside, okay? Once we've got our protection in place, we've got our debt management and our emergency fund, then we've got to make sure that we have the right amount and type of investments that will get you to financial freedom. So that kind of lays out just some of the basic concepts. Of course, you know, we could go more in depth, but some of the basic concepts that you need to be thinking about on a daily basis, just to make sure that you are positioning yourself to be financially free.
I think that hit home with a lot of people that I know personally. When it comes down to your protection, the life insurance policy. I have one, my son got one, my wife got one. I think I got 2. And I think that's very important because nobody want to sell plates to bears, you know, to take care of your funeral service.
Come on. And we are notorious for that.
We got it. We are. Go
in our community.
Stuff like, Lord have mercy, barbecue plates. No, nobody ain't trying to sell no plates, man. Because you know, it was very important. My mother-in-law passed away last year, and you know, we saw it coming. You know, but we wasn't really. Yeah, thank you. But mentally, you know, we wasn't prepared, but we was getting ourselves ready. Long story short, we had to look into, you know, policies or where would it be or where would service be, you know, buried and this and that and the third. And I found out those conversations are very uncomfortable, but they're very necessary. Yeah, very necessary. I had to have an uncomfortable conversation with my mom after my mother-in-law passed, because it's going to happen. We all have a day. We just don't know when. So, yes, that's very important to have your life insurance policy.
Absolutely. And then, you know, people tell me they have life insurance, but just because you have life insurance doesn't mean you have proper protection. That's different. And so how are you going to know what that amount is? That's
right.
Holler at me, give me a call. I can do, whoever it tunes into this episode, if you're bold enough and brave enough, reach out to me and I will offer you a complimentary consultation where we can do a review of your life insurance or whatever other policies you have in place. Let's make sure you have the right amount and the right type. And let's make sure that your policies are going to meet your needs and reach your goals.
Danyell, two things. First and foremost, I didn't know we were gonna have church this morning. You was preaching earlier, like you was. I was in there like, man, come on now, speak.
Woo!
Hey, speak to me. So, yeah, you hitting all major points, and it's beautiful that you're doing it. And what you're talking about, financial literacy and everything else, I'm taking it in the same way as I think it was Men's Health magazine. I was back in my very, very healthy days. Now, well, I will be getting back to that because I need to. Okay. And I also need to do this as well too. And what I was saying with the Men's Health magazine is that they were saying that with medical, when it's something medical and you're going to your doctor, physician, getting a checkup, physical or whatever, you need to be open and honest no matter how embarrassing it is, because what the doctor or whoever needs to know, that's how they can help you. Same thing with what you're preaching, what you're talking about. No matter how embarrassing it is, whatever it is, bring those things to the table and let's talk about it, because it's all to benefit and help you. You want to help the other person. So the other person has to come with open arms and like just let it all out. Let Danyell help you. So that's what I'm getting. And that's why I love that you're doing this. The honesty. That's what I love about that. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Glad to be here. And yes, I'm one of those people that are genuine. I'm a law-abiding citizen, by the way. And I believe in doing what is in your best interest. So, you know, as James mentioned, if you're willing to be transparent, if you're willing to take the Band-Aid off, however good your situation is, great. However bad your situation is, not a problem. Let's talk about it, because that's really how we get to the bottom of things. And that's really how we can help turn things around.
And so, are there, for the people out there, are there any upcoming events or anything you got going on, workshops or anything where they can get assistance for?
Absolutely. So, you know, definitely, you know, I make myself available to you and will provide the contact information where you can reach out to me, you know, as soon as possible. I like to get to people while the information is fresh on their brain. But also did want to share for you that as a part of this National Financial Literacy Campaign, we are serious about educating people. And so we try to eliminate every barrier that we can. Every single week, we do offer free, as in you don't have to pay for it.
Free.
It's free 99.
Get people's attention. Free.
Free, right? And they are virtual. And they are online, so you don't even have to leave your house.
No excuse.
You can be in your pajamas.
Wow. Come on now.
Exactly.
Preaching, boy. Come on.
Let me tell you what we talk about.
We
talk about how can we help you to increase your cash flow. Okay. Debt management. How can you build a strong financial foundation? How can you know what proper protection is for you? Because it's different for every person. Okay. Nobody's financial situation is identical to the next one, right? It's a very individualized situation. How can you build wealth? How can we help you prepare for retirement and wealth preservation? Okay, those are just some of the topics that we talk about, but we do offer these workshops every single week. We try to offer some of them in the afternoon. We try to offer some of them in the evening because we're aware that people are working professionals. You got your family. So we like to offer these workshops throughout the week. It's usually Monday through Friday. The best bet is to reach out to me so that I can know what your schedule is, and then I can help get you registered for the workshop that will be most conducive to your schedule. So yes, that we have those going on this month of April, but we will have those going on all year long, because that is how serious we are about educating people financially. So reach out to me, and I can provide you with the schedule, and we can see, what works best for your schedule.
That's awesome. And we really do appreciate you coming on, Danyell. And I know people out there are like, this is not like our normal type of interview that we do, but it's a reason why we've had you on. So it's okay, but y'all want to go ahead and drop the announcement that we got something coming to you next month. We're gonna make a few changes on the show where there's so much information that's out there on financial literacy, and everybody needs help with that. So Danyell is actually going to be joining us on the Just Acting Up show on our Balancing Act segment to drop some of those financial tips for you all.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it. I'm thrilled. Because as Chris mentioned, great is the need. I could only just touch on a few points this morning, but let's continue the conversation. Let's help you get well financially. Let's help you build wealth. Let's help you get to, financial freedom. I'm privileged and honored to be a part of this team and to help educate you. I'm your partner in this. I'm with you on this, right? I believe that if you want to be financially free, you can. Now, does it take work? Yeah, it will. Does it take education? Absolutely. But together we can get you across the finish line.
Will it take you not going to the hookah bar on the weekend?
That's good. I like that.
As a kid, you've been like, Mom, I want some McDonald's. You got food at home. Now, as an adult, you're telling yourself that I got food at home.
It feel like Danyell just did the most amazing commercial right there. She just listed that off, and it was beautiful. Like, that was nice. I love that. That was dope. Like,
well, I'm having fun. You all are so much fun. And we want to make this thing doable. A lot of times people, when you talk about money, they start getting anxious and blood pressure goes up. And we want to make this fun, and we want to decrease your stress and your anxiety.
Right.
That's what we want to do. And we want you to be able to proclaim the promises of God over your life and leave that financial, that legacy of multi-generational wealth. And we want to show you how to do it, right?
Exactly. Danyell, go ahead and tell everyone where we can reach you at on your social media.
Absolutely. Social media, you can reach me on Instagram at Danny Cole. I will spell that at DANICHOLE 1. And if it's okay, I can also provide my email and contact information. A good email to reach me at is Davis, that's DAVIS _ Danyell, DANYELL at sbcglobal.net. And then my business line you can reach me on is 281-742-0557. Again, that's 281-742-0557. I'm Danyell. It's an honor. Let's do this thing. Let's create multi-generational wealth for you and your family.
Thank you so much. I know you're like a woman of many hats, but we just wanted to focus on the financial literacy because it was just very important. Danyell has been in music videos. Was it Focus? The film that you mentioned.
I'm sorry to say his name now because everybody's giving a hard time right now. But this was the old Will Smith.
Yeah. No. It's cool.
Who was? And I'm going to brag on him, right? Because I was listening to TD Jakes the other day, right? And he said, so the minute you are a public figure, you mess up. Basically, we're all sinners, but you just sin publicly, and so now everybody got something to say. But if we each were to walk around with the video crew and they saw everything that we did on a daily basis, we would be in the same situation as Will Smith, right? Yeah. And so I am not giving him any excuse for that behavior. I think it's reprehensible. I think it's hard enough being Black in America, and we don't need celebrities representing that way. Forgive me, but Chris Rock had every right to end that man on that day. The minute you decide you're gonna step to someone and slap, you better know that can be met with I can end your life.
He can. He still can. Yeah.
He could have done that. He could have pressed charges on him because I heard he had residual pain in his ear after the slap. So I mean, so I'm not excusing Will Smith in the least because to whom much is given, much is required. Will Smith, you know, you got to represent for yourself, your family, you know, for humanity, and he's got to do better. You know, I know we're all sinners. I'm not here to judge him, but we're just thinking you've been giving that celebrity to not use it for evil. Why don't you use it for good? You know, if you had an issue with Chris Rock, why couldn't you pull him to the side after the show on the break? There was a better way to handle that.
Right.
You know, so I have to say that. I got to say that, and then I'll say this was in the good years. I got to be an extra on one of his movies. And let me say this. On the set, he represented so well. He was that's why this was a shock. This was doubly disappointing to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I've seen Will Smith when he's at his best. He was very humble. You could tell the celebrity hat was not on. His bodyguards were all around him telling him, okay, we'll just go ahead and escort you away. No, he took time to talk with us, shake hands. Impromptu, he started flowing and doing a couple of verses, rapping. I mean, everything they didn't want him to do, he was like, forget it. No, he was like, thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for being a part of this movie. The most humble, the most down-to-earth person that you could think to meet. And so fast forward all these years later to see this, that's why I was just so disappointed because I know that he can be better than that.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen him be better than that.
You know, the devil will try to attack you.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you're at your finest hour, that's what I think Denzel said. That's when the devil's going to come for you, you know? And so that could have been one of the most, I don't know, best moments of his life. And now it has to permanently be stained by that.
Yeah.
We got to think about our actions. And can we live with the consequence of our action a year from now, 5 years from now, you know? And anger management, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I know we were at church today when you came. See, Daniel, thank you.
Hey, I can't help myself with this being. We just went through Good Friday. You know, I guess I got the word in me just looking at what Jesus went through. You know, for someone who didn't deserve it, what he was willing to go through. I'm humbled and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude and appreciation. You know, but like I said, you know, to me, Will Smith's, you know, public sin, just kind of. I don't know. It kind of makes you look at your own life and say, okay, you know,
you gotta clean some stuff up and watch what you do. Yeah.
Watch what you do. And you know what? The more God gives you, stay humble. Don't get arrogant.
Yeah.
Because I kind of sensed an arrogance in him when he was after he slapped Chris. Once he was leaving, it was like, do you know who I am? And I'm like, wait a minute.
Will Smith.
That pride.
Thank you.
Oh goodness.
So I can't help it. I'm full of the word and just appreciation for Jesus and his sacrifice. And I guess y'all caught me on resurrection weekend. I can't help it. You know?
Yes, ma'am. I just really appreciate you. I really thank you for all the wisdom and the free game that you're giving. I mean, actually free game. So I appreciate it.
I'm not an information hoarder. Once information is given to me, I'm not going to keep it to myself. Whoever wants to hear it, I'm willing to share it.
Absolutely.
So thank y'all so much from the bottom of my heart. And I just pray over our partnership and, you know, wish you all continued success in your individual lives and collectively as we're working on this Just Acting Up podcast. And thank y'all for giving me this opportunity. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.